Welcome, Mads. Thank you for joining today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Can you start out with just giving an introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Madsbjerg Hansen. I'm the CIO of Dagrofa, the Danish food company. I've been working in IT for 25 years. Lots of large international companies, Maersk, Carlsberg, FLSmidth, IKEA and Novo, and now Dagrofa.
Okay, cool. And you're actually moving from a very international companies to something a little bit more local. How's that?
It's interesting. Super practically, I need to change the language. I'm used to speaking English at work, and in Dagrofa we speak Danish together all the time, which is of course wonderful. You just need to get used to it again. I think when you work for these international companies, you go around in the world and you go to far countries. When you work for Dagrofa, we have 550 stores, and they are in almost every single corner of Denmark. So when you visit some of these stores, it feels just as exotic at going as flying to another country, because it's as far away as you can get in Denmark, and it's super fun to see all these places. So it's different but nice.
Okay. And you're fairly new in Dagrofa, right? You've been there for, you said, 8 months?
Yes, 8-9 months, I think. Yes. So I still feel pretty new, but it's still at the same time, it feels like I've been there forever because so much has happened in such a short time, but that's fine.
I can also understand that you've joined kind of in the middle of an ongoing strategy, the Grow 27.
Yes.
How is that? Because you're kind of just getting thrown into something that's been, I guess, decided in advance before you joined, but how has that been?
Yes, I'll say the strategy is for the whole company, and IT is of course only part of that. I'll say the start was very hectic because when I started in the morning, I had kind of breakfast with the CEO and my team, and when I'd been there 5 minutes, we had a major incident because there was this new Danish packaging tax that was launched on exactly the same day as I started, and we did something wrong with the data, meaning a lot of the prices around in all our stores were wrong. So I got to know our incident management process pretty fast, a little faster than I could have wished for. So that was intense. When it comes to the strategy, I think Dagrofa hasn't been investing that much in IT for many years. So this strategy is about investing a lot in the foundation, getting the basics in place, modernizing the infrastructure, getting ERP up and running. So it's not like it's a strategy I can fully buy into because it's the strategy that makes sense. So even if I wasn't part of making the strategy, it makes perfect sense. So that way around, that hasn't been a problem.
Okay, so all the initiatives were already planned, or did you have some influence on actually choosing what direction to go, or was ERP, I guess, was just decided in advance, more or less, right?
Because yes, you can say the platform was chosen. How we do it, of course, and some of the first steps of the project were planned. How we then do it, I of course have an influence on, together with the other key stakeholders around the program. So I don't think I don't feel it's a problem that I came in the middle of a strategy. Then you could all companies are already in the middle of a strategy, no matter when you arrive. Exactly. So I think it's been fine.
Okay. And what about, I could imagine that coming into a company like Dagrofa, there's probably a huge wish list of things that needs to be done.
Yes.
And of course, there's a budget, but that's often not fitting the wish list. So how do you get those to meet?
That's always challenging. I will say Dagrofa is investing more in IT than it has ever done before.
All right.
So the budget is bigger than it has ever been for investments. But of course, the wish list is always even longer. Yeah. And that's just how it is. I don't think it's good for any of us if we get everything that's on our wish list. I actually think the tough prioritization, the discussion, is this really needed? I think they are super useful discussions because otherwise you end up wasting your money. I will say it's also one constraint on what you can do is the IT budget, but probably an even bigger constraint in real world. That's the people who can do the actual change, both on the IT and on the business side, and the ability to do all these transformation at the same time. Sometimes I'm like, yes, we will spend a number of years doing our ERP program, and even if the board came and gave me 1 billion kroner, it's not like I could speed it up to twice the speed. because it takes time, lots of work that needs to be done. You only have one specialist in a certain area, and he can only work a certain amount of time. So yes, a budget is a constraint, but there are other constraints that are probably even more critical.
So are you, the way that you address that instead, is that then by sequencing things in the right order, or how are you approaching that kind of, let's call it change fatigue?
Yes, it's sequencing, it's prioritization, it's super tough discussions with the various people, because even if you decide, yes, we want to do all these super nice initiatives that will make our company better for the future, make us more money tomorrow, you very soon realize, both in IT and business, that you're often dependent on a few key people, both on the technology and on the business processes, and they just end up becoming bottlenecks. And then you need to take the discussion and saying, okay, of everything we're doing right now, what's most important? I think we all tend to be more optimistic about what we can do than we end up doing. Yeah. And that, I think, is the same. It's both Dagrofa, but it's also other companies and organizations I've worked with. We have a lot of faith in everything we can do, but there's just so much happening in real life.
Yeah. Cool. How are you in terms of planning then? Because you kind of say we always want to do more than we can do. Are you trying to be as realistic as possible, or are you pushing the envelope a bit so that you go out and say, okay, let's be ambitious? Realistically, it might be that we do it in 10 months, but let's say 8. Or where do you put in an extra 2 months and say 12? Or how are you usually approaching that part for kind of setting the ambition and pushing the boundaries?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle probably, but that's probably also my job, because when it comes to IT, I need to kind of balance it all.
Yeah.
And it also depends a little bit on the nature of a project. All projects are urgent, we need them now, whatever, but there are some projects where you say, okay, if we don't get that done tomorrow, it's not like things become complicated because it takes a week or a month more. That's not critical. Then there can be some stuff where we're saying, here is a deadline. It could be a regulatory deadline, like the packaging tax. We cannot say, well, IT in Dagrofa was not really ready, so Dagrofa will not comply to that legislation. That doesn't work.
No.
It could be onboarding of a new customer, where we have won a big, in our wholesale business, where we sell to restaurants and stuff. Sometimes it's very big contracts, and we do specific integration with this customer. And there we can also, the deadline is also like, hey, it's non-negotiable. We changed supplier on our transportation provider in logistics, where we moved from one big supplier to another. And it's also like the old supplier will leave tomorrow, so his trucks will not come. There will be trucks from a new supplier. Yeah. And it's also like failure is not really an option. So the team needed to work 20 hours a day to make it happen. Yes. And then there are other projects where you say, well, maybe here quality matters a little more. We had a go live. We are rolling out a new ERP system, and we had the first go live on a small site here a month ago, and that was actually 1 month postponement compared to the original plan, because we felt, it's actually more important to do it right.
Yeah.
If it has been something like changing transportation supply, we say, okay, we know there are mistakes, errors, but we will go live anyway because we don't have a choice. So it depends a bit.
So you only postponed the ERP with 1 month?
It depends, as usual. It depends on what you compare it with.
Yeah, exactly. That would be impressive. I have never heard about an ERP being delivered on time.
There is still a lot of work to do.
And
as I said, it depends on any big program. You have different baseline plans over the years, and the world changes. So it depends on what you compare it with. But,
Okay. Taking a step back and talking a bit about the strategy again, the Growth 27, with IT or technology being a big foundational element in that. What was the challenges that the business or the technology team experienced that required something completely different?
I think yes, we can always sit in IT and cry and say our systems are out of support, they are unstable, blah, blah, blah. But that's never really that's not necessarily gonna get you the support to renew this. I think what was critical for us was this thing. We can see we have a lot of legacy system. Yes, they are out of support, but what the challenge is, it's becoming super hard for us to execute on the business strategy on top of these old legacy system. Because the older they get, I'm pretty sure we can keep them alive for 10 more years. Even if they are out of support, we can find somebody who will keep them alive. But it's a little bit, they need to be put in a little bit of a retirement home, saying don't touch anything, don't move it, it runs, but don't do anything. And our customers keep having new requirements to us that they want Dagrofa to do like this, our stores to be able to do like that, and we cannot, from a business perspective, keep saying, well, we cannot really do that because our systems are so old. And I think that's the best argument for getting the funding to doing all this. That is, we cannot execute on our future strategy if we don't invest in this foundation. And yes, then I can have some more boring IT arguments that I don't like being out of support. We don't like people being woken up at night because the system is old and unstable. But it's kind of the limitations on our strategy that is the real best argument, I will say.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what, with that in mind, then what are then you mentioned ERP as being one of the things that you're addressing. What other things are you then addressing as part of the technology foundation for the strategy?
The ERP is by far the biggest one.
Yeah.
Then we have had renewal of various warehouse management system.
Yeah.
About that. Then we have a lot of Dagrofa has grown by mergers and acquisitions over last many years. So we have been consolidating Active Directory and stuff just to be able to get on the real same infrastructure. So I can book a meeting room where I can invite you, you making us part of the same organization. So there's a lot of basic cleanup, new network technologies. Some of the stuff we have is also very old, needs to be renewed, both for stability, also for security purposes, etc. So there's a lot of this foundational work, and some of it might not be super cool and super sexy, but it needs to be done, because if we don't have that in place, we cannot really change our business in the future.
Okay. So a lot of cleanup, a lot of more or less getting the house in order so that you're ready for the future.
Yes.
How? I guess one of the things that I've seen a lot, right, is that when that has been done, then as soon as you kind of are not keeping an eye on it anymore. So let's say the application landscape, for example, is notoriously known for this. Is that as soon as you don't keep an eye on it, then it starts growing again and rapidly. How are you then thinking about that to avoid this happening again?
I don't think I can avoid the application landscape from growing.
No.
To two reasons. One thing is, in Dagrofa, like in any other companies, more and more processes are being covered by IT. Processes that nobody ever thought should be digitalized, but they are now because it brings benefit. So when it comes to kind of small systems, I'm sure we're getting more and more and more. And I think most companies are. Then we need to be super good at killing systems that are not used anymore. And then I think our priority is really about getting the big pieces in place. We did kind of what we can call a target architecture, something saying, okay, when we counted now, we had like 30 big pieces, the real big systems that run Dagrofa. And now we have an ambition. We want to bring that down to 15 over a number of years. And if we manage the big pieces, then I think it's okay that we end up with various apps and things to support different processes that nobody ever thought should be digitalized, but now actually can be in a good way. So I don't think it's realistic to really bring down the total number of systems, given how much more technology is coming. But if we need fewer big pieces, I would say.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm curious because Dagrofa is a bit different compared to a lot of the other bigger food companies in that sector, with being a lot more decentralized in many ways.
Yes.
How are you? Can you talk a little bit about that and what that means in the Dagrofa context, but also what's the challenges and how do you handle it?
Yes, you can say 75% of Dagrofa's business that is our stores, basically Menu, Letkøb, Spar, Min Købmand, everything from very big menu with 50 employees or something and a turnover of a couple of 100 million to a very, very small letkøb or min købmand far out in the country, at a camping site, whatever. And by far the majority of these stores are owned by the local merchant, and he or she is basically the CEO of their own company. They choose to get theirs to be part of our chain, saying, well, we would like to be part of min købmand because we like the branding, we like the values, we like the goods we can put on our shelf if we're part of that chain. But if they at some point of time don't like it, they can basically just get their things from somewhere else, from Co-op or whatever of our competitors, if that's what they want.
Yeah.
Given they are kind of CEOs in their own company, they have a lot of ideas about what they like. They are super entrepreneurial. They are very focused on local needs, of course, because that's where we want to differentiate ourselves from our competitors by really understanding and being part of a local community, local market. That's very much in min købmand and Spar. And then we have Menu that wants to focus on high quality products. But a lot of our merchants say to deliver on that, we need to make a lot of decisions ourselves because we're the ones understanding the local markets. And I think that makes a lot of sense because it is... If you enter a Menu or a min købmand, it's real people working there. You get that feeling when you sometimes enter some of our competitors. It's a little bit like, okay, it's a fine shop, the prices are low, but it's not real. It's not real human beings. They're not part of local community. We want to be part of that local community. But when you have all these independent people with different views, of course, it's not always easy to be IT manager in a company like this because they also have a lot of different views on how should IT be set up, etc. I think historically we have probably not managed that as well as we should. There are too many local solutions out in the stores. That gives problems at least in two ways. You're doing more and more loyalty apps and stuff that works for all our stores, and it's super hard technically to make that work if the local setup is different because then you get errors and all kind of trouble. It's also security-wise an issue because if you're a creative merchant, maybe you don't always know a lot about cybersecurity, but you will still be hit if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
So I think we need to centralize things more and standardize that part more. I think we need to standardize the components they have out in the store, but how they put the components together, they can still decide themselves. When we talk to our merchants, when you spend the time actually explaining this, they actually, by far the majority of them, accept it and can see, hey, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
Accepting does not mean loving it, but it makes sense. So we're moving more towards standardized pieces out in the stores.
I could almost imagine that it would be like for them to select what partner they choose to work with. It could be that some of the reasons for that would actually be the digital solutions or the technical solutions that you can offer as well. So if you have like a better point of sale system or a better self-service checkout or a mobile app that's better or whatever it is, that could. Do you think that plays a role in the decision from the owners of the stores at the moment, or happen?
I think that probably goes up and down.
Yeah.
Sometimes we take over stores from some of our competitors, and then of course we ask them, is it better or worse than what you used to get? And for a merchant, equally as important, is it cheaper or more expensive?
Yeah, of course.
So yes, I think it can make a difference when we get it right.
Yeah.
I think when you talk to them and discuss that, hey, you're as a merchant, you don't really express your personality in your point of sale system. You express your values and your personality in how you set up your store, what products do you have on the shelf, on the people you hire that help and advise our customers. They get that. So I think slowly we are getting there. And they also get the cybersecurity argument that there is a limit to flexibility because you just take too many risks if you don't standardize something. So slowly and steady towards a little bit more standardization on that side. How they put up the stores, that can look much more different, because that doesn't put a risk on the rest of us, like a cybersecurity exposure would do.
Yeah. I guess my impression is at least that a lot of the stores right now are testing different solutions with mobile checkout, and some of them have those point of sale systems where you can do it yourself, and then they have the regular cashier and things like that. What's the plans in Dagrofa? Is that to enable that for all of the stores, or is that up to the individual owner to get the different solutions, or how does that work?
It's up to the owner of the store or the store manager to what do they think makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's super dependent on how big is the store. If it's a big store with 7 cashier lines, it makes sense to automate some of them.
Yeah.
We have some very, very small stores where it's like that works only 1 or 2 people there, and they pretty much do everything. And they're not run over by 100 customers at the same time. So we need to offer a number of solutions, and then they say, for my store, I want 2 of this and 1 of these. That's the right thing for me here.
Okay. I went. I got a tour at the Parken Entertainment, Sports Entertainment last week actually, and they've just introduced now that you can do you can just scan your credit card, then you walk around in in a small store, pick up everything that you need, and cameras are tracking you, and then you leave, and then it just catches everything that you picked up, and then you get charged. Is that when will we see that in the Dagrofa stores, if ever?
Right now, we don't have any plans about it. No. It's technically possible. It's pretty expensive, but you can do it. But I think for us right now, all this technology, it's automation in the stores. It's kind of a supplement for the people who want to use it.
Yes.
Because we want people to go into our stores because of the people who work in our stores and because of the products we have on the shelf. And if everything is automated, it becomes a little bit dull, if I can put it that way. It's super good for us that we have some of these self-service checkouts in many of the menu stores. It's super good to use for people who buy a few things or don't want to talk to anybody today.
Yeah.
But if you go into a menu store, one of our competitive differentiators is also the people working in checking you out. They're actually nice people smiling to you, saying, "Hi, Mads, how are you doing?" We don't necessarily want to take that away. So it's more a supplement to what else we have. We use it in some of our rural stores because we have some very small stores in very remote areas with a very small customer base, and it's very hard to make the financial works in that. But then in some cases, maybe there's only personnel in the store for a couple of hours, but it's basically open 24/7 because then people can go in and do it themselves. And that works fine in rural areas because they all know each other, so you don't steal from each other.
Okay. Yeah.
So for us right now, it's more supplement.
Will that makes a lot of sense.
Maybe, but for now, I don't think so.
But I think Amazon also launched their concept. I think it was called Amazon Go or something like that. And I think they actually, I don't remember completely, but I remember it as if they have closed it down again.
Yes, they had it for, I think it started almost 10 years ago. I tried it a couple of times. It works. But yes, I think you're right. They turned it off again because and I think it also a lot of it was not really artificial intelligence. It was hundreds of people sitting behind some screens doing the work. Technically, you can do it now. That's not the problem.
No.
It's more, is that what we want?
No, but I think there is a tendency to, as more and more things gets automated, the human factor becomes even more important.
Yes.
So whenever we go to one extreme, and in this case, if it's faceless automation, then you want to seek for the faced and personal interaction, right?
And so I think in particular, giving our customers the ability to choose.
Yeah.
Today, do I want to talk to a human being, or do I just want to be left alone because I'm tired and stressed and have had a long day? If we can give our customers the ability to choose, I think that's better. But let's see where the future brings us. it's not the technology that will be the bottleneck.
Okay. No, it's the adoption
Yes.
from the people. Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense. You mentioned that that cybersecurity is also on your plate,
Yes.
also for the different stores.
Yes.
How, I guess that sounds complicated if all the systems or a lot of the systems are different and a lot of it is managed locally.
Yes.
And how are you approaching that?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
A lot of patience, a lot of explanation, one step at a time. I'll say the good thing is kind of technically, architecturally, each store is pretty independent.
Yeah.
And that means it's more, even if something goes wrong in one store, it does not bring.
So it's segregated in that way. Yeah.
Yes, but things can still happen. So we are taking ongoing a number of initiatives to tighten things slowly. Not like a big bang saying now everything must be cybersecurity the highest possible level, because that doesn't make sense in retail. But taking the most important small steps that we think make the difference. And I think it's also being accepted by the merchant. We made a change here. We are making a change right now, and my head of security took the time to meet with all the merchants who wanted to understand this, explain this is why we're doing, and if any of you have questions, give me a call and I'll explain why. And I think he told me last week that he thought he'd been talking to 100 merchants now, explaining them why we need to do this. But then they also accept it, because he takes the time to explain this is why we're doing this. It's not to make your life miserable. It's to avoid making all of our lives miserable at some point of time if we're unfortunate. Yeah. So taking the time and one step at a time.
Yeah, I guess it's a huge stakeholder landscape that needs to be taken care of.
Yes, exactly. And then it's like I said, we are a very decentralized company. We are not a bank, so we don't need to meet a lot of regulatory requirements and stuff. And the risk in our industry is also more limited. Of course, there's still a risk, but it's not.
No, but I guess it's not the individual stores, as you say. If one goes down, it's probably not a big issue. It's probably more if you're, I don't know, all your warehouses are going down, right? Then none of the stores will be on, right?
Worse,
that's probably where the most critical parts
but I think in this decentralized federated setup, it's really about explaining, and then people understand it. As I said, even if they accept it and understand it, they don't necessarily love it, but that's then how it is.
Yeah. I think you last time we spoke, I think you mentioned a fun anecdote where you said that also the merchants, they can also choose some of the products themselves. So, for example, if there's a local grandma that wants to sell home knitted socks, then they can actually do that.
Yes, when you're part of one of our chains, Min Købmand, Meny, or Letkøb, or Spar, you get kind of, there's a standard assortment that you must have, and then the merchants can also bring in local products or products they just think make sense in their local area. And there was one of them I visited. She sold socks that her mother was knitting, and that. Super nice. That works super well in this local community.
Well, it's nice.
And I think in other places we have stores in very different parts of the country. People in Hellerup buy different stuff than they do in southern Jutland. So of course the menus cannot have exactly the same products. And the reason we have these local merchants is exactly because they know what's going on locally and can kind of take that into account.
From a data perspective, how do you then handle that? Because I guess that also leads to a lot of SKUs that are probably difficult to manage, and some of them probably without SKUs as well.
Yes. Some of it we just need to live with.
Yeah.
It gets more tricky when we do online sales through Volt, as we do as an example, because then we have, what products do we have in a store? Because there's something we know we have, and there's something we may have, and then the local merchant might have something he or she got from somewhere else, which is fine because they know what's needed locally, but it's hard to maintain.
Okay, so do you then have like a database for the different SKUs that you have in the different stores, and then you're linked to Volt, and then in case that you're out of stock in that specific store, then that's just how it is, or how does that work?
Yes, it's super tricky, so I'm not even sure I can explain it here.
No.
But you can say we sell the stuff that we have in our standard assortment, you can say, that all stores need to have, and then stores can maintain whatever else they have on the side in the same systems, but in a slightly different way. And that's, of course, normally you don't need a lot of discipline in that, because it's not so important what's actually in the books in our industry, because most of the products we sell, the turnover is super fast, so it doesn't matter that much. Because when you order goods, you more walk around in the store and saying, we're low on this, we're low on this. It doesn't matter so much what the book says. But when you put it on Vault, it all of a sudden matters.
Exactly.
And that requires some discipline that is hard to get used to. Because then you need the stuff you have locally, you need to maintain that locally. If you take a thing like finished meals, we have butchers in all of our menu stores, and they sometimes make dagens ret or whatever. And one day, the day that might be flæskesteg sandwich, and the next day it might be goulash. But if we sell it through Vault, they need to update it somewhere in a disciplined way. Because otherwise, how would people know?
And I guess that's the responsibility in the store, right? So they need to assign someone to maintain Vault, certainly.
Yes, because we don't sit centrally and manage that. That's much better managed locally, because we don't necessarily know what do people in this specific area of Denmark want to eat today. They know that much better locally.
Back to the local touch.
So it's interesting.
What other dimensions of data is important for Dagrofa? Because I guess the SKUs is, of course, one thing. Then you have probably some items in the supply chain that you need to keep track of. But where does data play a big role for you?
I think all companies kind of put data higher on the agenda. I think there's a number of reasons, apart from it just being fashionable, so we all need to do that. I think there is a big regulatory aspect of it. Also a far bigger aspect than we really like, because we feel we have too much regulation in a lot of this, which doesn't necessarily bring a lot of value to the consumers. But anyway, it is what it is. I think there is a lot of new technologies coming that just makes it possible to do things with data that it wasn't possible before. Artificial intelligence, of course, but also data platforms and stuff where you can do things that you couldn't do before. And then I think the final aspect, that the world is moving super, super fast and changing very fast. And it takes a lot of time to building a traditional IT system takes a lot of time. And what IT systems do are basically creating and manipulating data. And sometimes if you can work on the data without the IT system, you can move faster without waiting. Like if we need to wait until we have implemented standard ERP in all of Dagrofa, we need to be very, very patient, but there are some of the value that we want to get out of having the same system, some of the questions we want to be able to answer with new data platforms. We can give an answer that is pretty good, even if we don't really have the allowed foundation beneath. So we made a new data platform there. There are some financial reports and stuff that we haven't been able to do because of all the legacy system, but now because we can pull out the data, put it into this platform, do some stuff with it, we can actually answer some of these questions without having to wait 5 or whatever years until we're done with ERP. And then AI is, of course, a big driver for the interest in data. I think I don't know exactly what this will bring for Dagrofa and where. I don't think other companies know either. It's really about
with
learning.
AI or data in general.
Both, basically. I think data. There's some obvious stuff about. Yes, we would like to predict more our needs. What will people be buying in 2 weeks? Should we have barbecue sausages on sale in 2 weeks because the sun will be shining and everybody will want to do barbecue? So there's something about forecasting. There's something about general efficiency. We're beginning to use a bit of artificial intelligence in what's called slotting. That's optimizing where goods are stored in our large warehouses to optimize how much time do we need to pick it up and stuff. So I think there's a lot of all of this that we're looking into beginning to do, and there's a lot of this that our competitors are also doing. So I think in that way around data is important.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, it might be. I think that's an even more open playing field. I think it's. I don't feel I know a lot about artificial intelligence. I don't know exactly what it will make it possible for us to do. I don't know exactly when it will make it possible for us to do whatever it will do. And I honestly think that's where most companies I talk to are. So I think, like other companies, we are doing a lot of experiments, prototype, trying things out to get our arms around this, and things change so super fast.
Yeah.
I think we're using artificial intelligence for kind of it's not traditional automation, but let's call it automation on speed, saying, okay, there's some work that's not really super interesting to do. Let's have AI do that work for us. I think it's been a lot of small things. Now we're beginning to see some use cases that are bigger, and that makes it much more interesting. It's not super interesting if we can make mass 1 hour more efficient a week. Okay, nice, but that doesn't really bring us anywhere. We need some bigger use cases. But I think, I think that's going in that direction.
Yeah.
We've been looking a lot into AI for personal productivity.
Of course, yeah.
It's the usual Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever.
Yeah.
We decided, and it's had lots of discussion. What should we allow? What should we not allow? We decided basically to say we allow all the tools, but we don't allow all of kind of data in all the tools.
Okay.
Saying, well, if you have a tool, you can use it, but you cannot put confidential data into a tool that has not been approved.
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of tools that we have said, okay, here we can stay in control. What happens with confidential data if that goes in there? But we felt it was better to do it from the data side than on the tool side, because it's so.
Do you have any guardrails to check whether people are uploading confidential data, or are you just? I guess you're probably just trusting people not to do it.
We're trusting people. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But I think that's interesting because I've spoken with a lot of companies about this exactly.
Yes.
How are you handling this part? And most of them started the other way around, with kind of wrapping at like OpenAI, ChatGPT with some guardrails and make it very restricted, and no one used it, right? And then everybody used everything besides the GPT that they put up for it. So everybody did like shadow AI.
Yes, but that was exactly our conclusion, saying we can try to say you cannot use whatever tool you want, but it's not really helping because people will do it anyway.
Yeah, and people are super creative, right? So I've heard about people buying dedicated laptops outside of the kind of the corporate policies, bringing their own Wi-Fi hotspots so that they can go around internet, network restrictions. So people are super creative, right? And they will find a way.
Yes. So we said, okay, we gave everybody kind of a basic e-learning training in the types of data, and saying this type of data you do whatever you want to do with it. This type of data you can only use this and this tool.
Yeah.
But it's super hard because it took a month, I think, to make the training material. And when we started, there were two tools that were approved. And while we did the training, a third one, everybody wanted the third one that came up. And I'm sure it will be a new one in 2 months. So
and the training is more or less outdated as soon as you've done it, right? So
yes, you can say the good thing is we focused on the data rules, and they kind of stay more the same.
Yeah, they stay the same.
The tools changed, but let's see. But I think we, like all companies, are in a phase where we also say, well, it is a little bit about learning and seeing what comes out, because it's not a stable. AI hasn't stabilized anywhere yet, and we don't really. None of us really know how fast it will go. I think for the last 10 years, we've been talking about, well, the car will drive itself tomorrow or next month. And it's like, I still need to drive to bloody Ringsted every morning myself, and it cannot drive itself.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting to hear because that's also what I've heard most places is there's kind of the three, let's call it three maturity levels of AI, right? There's kind of the deploy part where you select a few tools, OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Claude, or Copilot, or whatever, and then you kind of get those rolled out, right? And then there's kind of more the reshaping part where it's more focused on looking at existing workflows and rethinking those.
Yes.
And that's where people are kind of experimenting a little bit now and getting started with some success, and a lot of people are also seeing no success, right? It's also difficult to figure out. And then there's kind of the reinvent part that's more thinking, okay, what if we did the business completely different, right? That could, I don't know how that would look for Dagrofa, but yeah, the people-less stores or something like that. That's probably more in that category.
Probably yes, but I think it's a good model you talk about. I think we are doing exactly step 1 and 2, and not much in step 3.
No.
Also because our industry is a pretty physical industry.
Yeah.
It's about food. It's a very tangible product. It's not like a bank or whatever. It's there. It does not mean we cannot use some of it, but I don't think AI is gonna turn the food industry completely around. It's gonna change it, but it's not definitely. Like.
I don't know. It's a good question, right? I think I had a chat with a friend from Pandora the other day, and he talked a little bit about how they are doing it, and the interesting thing for them is that they are. So they are really strong on the physical part as well. And they also have a strong e-commerce presence.
Yes.
But the experience, whether you are in a store or whether you are on e-commerce, is vastly different. Because in the stores, they have like this Pandora experience that the staff, they're trained in doing that.
Yes.
And can bring people through talking about the memories that they have and connect that to the jewelry that they are purchasing.
Yeah.
And they can't do the same thing on the e-commerce at the moment, right? Then you have filtering, and you can, of course, look at the different collections and all of that. But that part of actually creating a unique experience online, they're trying to do that with AI now, so that they have an AI sales assistant online.
Yeah. Okay.
To bring them through that experience. And I really like that idea. And I don't know whether that can in any way kind of be transferred to the Dagrofa context. But it's interesting to think in those patterns, right? If there are some things that are done, like the human connect or the connection in the stores, whether that could be brought online somehow, or
maybe it can.
Yeah,
I think online sales of food to normal consumers is not that big in Denmark.
No,
it hasn't really picked up in our whole food business. The Dagrofa food service, it's by far the majority is online.
Yeah.
Because people running restaurants and canteens, they don't want to go down shopping. They're just like, I want to order things I normally order on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So I think that area, we have a very advanced web shop. I'm sure at some point of time it can also do some AI, whatever makes sense. For normal consumers, it's not going to be tomorrow, but I don't know when it will be there.
No.
I don't think any of our competitors have been super successful with online sale of normal groceries in Denmark. Nemlig.com is kind of the only ones who really been big, maybe starting to make money, but it hasn't picked up that much. Will it come? Probably, but it's probably also gonna be pretty slow.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it's actually thinking of it from another angle, right? Because a lot of prediction says that AI will do shopping for you.
Yes.
So maybe it's more what you need to reinvent is potentially more thinking about, okay, how can you then meet that demand of AI?
Yes.
AI shopping with AI or something like that.
If AI does the shopping, of course, both Dagrofa and our competitors will be in trouble because then why?
How do we?
It's about having a store, but you don't need a store if it's AI doing the shopping.
No.
I don't know. I think there's a big generational difference here. I can just see I have a lot of teenage kids, and they think we live in the middle of everything, both stores and restaurants and whatever, but they think it makes sense to order through Volt. I'm just like, why should I pay for that? I can just go down and do it. That's stupid. But and I have more money than they have, but they are just like, of course, So it's very different, I think, among generations. But let's see.
There's a lot of convenience in it, right? So we also we live in the city center as well, or city, so we can also both order Nemlig and Volt and go down to the store. And often we do a little bit of everything, right? And that's probably the situation. And I'm curious to see whether I will be among those that kind of just, I don't know, whether I put in a sensor in my fridge and then it figures out what I need to buy, and then an AI just orders it automatically at some point. I don't know whether that's actually something I would do or trust. Suddenly it orders a lot of things that you don't want or something like that, right? But it might also...
But maybe at some point of time it knows you better than you know yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we get some surprises. As we have chosen, rather than do kind of normal online, we have this partnership with Volt where you order through Volt and get delivered from your local store.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, it's quite successful also in some rural districts.
Okay.
Because the distances are bigger. There are quite a lot of old people in some of these districts for whom it's physically just challenging to get to the store. And it's not like here in Copenhagen where you can take the metro because it's not there and there are bigger distances. So we actually see some older people using Volt there because, hey, I cannot walk to the store anymore. My legs are not great, but I can order this way. Fine, good.
But we've been using it quite a lot from Dagrofa actually at the office. Yeah. Because we are buying, I don't know, tons of sodas and a lot of snacks and things like that, right? More than we can carry almost. And then it just gets delivered by Volt at the door, right? And that's super convenient.
Yes, that makes sense.
So that works.
Let's see where it goes. I think our challenge is it can go in all kind of different directions. Our main challenge is to be agile and nimble enough to react whatever happens. Because I'm sure there will be things coming next year and things the year after and the year after and year after, and a lot of it is going to disappear again. We just need to be able to maneuver our way through.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's settled forever.
No, definitely not. And I think industries are moving in different speeds as well, right? So it might not be that Dagrofa will be the first movers in terms of AI, but it will probably hit at some point in some shape or form. But physical stores and physical labor work is probably protected a little bit more from the AI AI paradigm shift.
Yes, because the processes you can kind of automate with AI, they are kind of the computer or the brain processes. It's much harder to change the physical stuff.
Yeah,
things still need to move, whatever. Then at some point of time, maybe a robot can do it. But a lot of what AI traditional does, it is it's the computer, the mental work. And of course, if our merchants can spend the times advising customers rather than moving data from one spreadsheet to another, that's great. They would love that. So that kind of things we will certainly see.
Or have robots doing the restocking, so you can just go around and have a chat with the. Are you in the warehouses and things like that? Are you using robots there, or is that still kind of more forklifts, traditional with the pilots and everything?
It's relatively traditional. Also some high bay robots, but also still traditional. There are a few experiments beginning to ongo, also with us to test robots for stocking goods and stuff. Yeah. But it's very premature, I will say. The technology is not really there yet.
No.
And it's not 2 months away, it's longer away.
Yeah.
We are doing some discussions with some robot companies, but it's not like it. It can work with chips and pasta, if I can put it that way. You wouldn't want it to try to put your red wine on the shelves.
No, exactly. No.
But it's interesting to get the experience to see what it can do, and then maybe technology will solve it at some point of time. But whether it's 6 months or 6 years away, don't know.
It's interesting, right? Because a lot, like Elon Musk is of course pushing the agenda with the humanoid robots as well, right? But a lot of other companies, Chinese manufacturers are also doing it. So probably we will see humanoid robots, I don't know when, maybe in 5 years, I don't know.
Yes, that's also what I would guess. I don't think the ones I've seen yet are not super convincing.
No.
But yes, it moves fast.
It moves extremely fast. Yeah. Do you think if would Dagrofa go in that direction, do you think? Or is that difficult to say at the moment? Would you have humanoid robots walking around in the stores in the future?
I don't think we would have any problem doing a kind of behind-the-scenes work in stores, also in the store, but after opening hours. Again, I don't think it's the technology that will be the limiting factor. It will be all kind of regulation. How do you legally handle this? What if this robot drops something on a customer's foot? It's a little bit like self-driving cars where you have this thing. Yeah, it can be technically done, but it gets very, very complicated.
Yeah. From a regulatory perspective, who is actually
I think given the type of business where we probably always want human beings in our store, but for a lot of the more tedious work, if a robot can do it, that's as such fine. But I think it's gonna take, first the technology needs to be there, then the regulation needs to be there, and then we need to get used to accepting it.
Yeah.
So it's not, let's see how fast it goes.
Yeah. So now you're with Dagrofa, but before that you've been quite a few different places.
Yes.
How do you think that those places vary? So you mentioned Dagrofa is of course a little bit more local.
Yeah.
But what's kind of the cultural differences or some major differences that you noticed in?
Before I came to Dagrofa, I worked for IKEA as an example. You can say that's also retail. Is it that different from Dagrofa? But it is a very different company. You can say at the heart, something are the same no matter which company you're in. It's all about people, and people are the same no matter where they work. They get used to working in different ways, but it's really about dealing with people. Also say 80% of the technology is also the same, almost no matter where you work. So this thing, you need to have industry experience to get this job is normal. Like, you don't really, because not in IT, because most of what you do is technically the same. I think it's about, yes, there are differences, in culture, in ownership structure, etc., that makes a difference. If I can compare Dagrofa and IKEA, Dagrofa is owned by various, partly owned by a big Norwegian retailer called Norwesgruppen, and partly owned by a merchant association here in Denmark, and the margins are super low in Danish retail. And they expect us to make money every single year. Because that's what they want, basically want a return on their invested capital.
Of course.
And if we don't deliver that, we get into trouble.
Yeah.
And that means a lot of focus on execution, meeting financial targets, being super nimble, moving very, very fast. And say IKEA is also in retail, but IKEA is privately owned. And the people who own it have money enough. They are extremely long-term. It's about where will you be in 10 years or in 50 years?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say they don't care if IKEA makes money, but it almost feels like that. Because it's like, how can this company be better in 50 years? That's a very different perspective from these private owners. And that means there are things that can take, that are allowed to take a lot of time. Pax wardrobe, you may have one at home. It's the standard IKEA wardrobe. More than 10 years ago, some guys in IKEA got an idea they could do this smarter. Then in IKEA, you say, okay, let's do some prototypes. Let's do some engineering. That takes a couple of years. It is probably smarter, this thing. So maybe we should do new packs. Let's start building a new factory that can do these new packs, and let's plant some trees, because then there will be a forest we can make the cupboards of in a number of years. And that means it can take 10 years from an idea is breeded until you actually meet it out in the stores. Yeah. Because the perspective is so long-term, and your IKEA it has an advantage in that IKEA is completely in control of it all. Yeah. And they make all the money in the end, but it's an extremely long-term perspective where you're very patient and invest a lot of money to get there. That approach, because it takes 10 years, that approach wouldn't work very well in Danish retail, because you need to maneuver super fast. You need to change direction all the times. There are stores opening and closing. There are competitors dumping prices or increasing prices. There's all kind of stuff. So it's a bit like, I think Dagrofa compared to IKEA is a little bit like, it's more a speedboat than a supertanker. Maneuver fast. If we think we're fully in control, we're probably not moving fast enough yet. So it's very, that way around. I think it's different.
Okay. Yeah, so would you say that Dagrofa is more operational in that regard, or from a technology perspective, where IKEA might have been more strategic? Or
yes, I think that's a pretty fair way of putting it, because it's
of course,
like
IKEA is also very operational. It's a huge company with a lot of things happening. But from that perspective, it sounds like you're more kind of hands-on in the the mud, more or less, right?
Absolutely. It is more operational, and we always need in Dagrofa to kind of balance this thing. It's super fine to invest in an ERP system that will bring us a lot of benefits in 5 years, but how the heck do you bring some benefits tomorrow as well?
Yeah.
We cannot in Dagrofa say, let's put all the money in the far distant future, but neither can we say, well, let's put all money in what we're doing right now, because we need to kind of balance the tactical and strategically more than we had to do in IKEA, as an example.
Okay.
And I think that's fair enough. That makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Interesting with the ERP perspective there. How did you do that? So how did you kind of have those short-term gains with the ERP while also having kind of the long-term perspective of, I guess you've consolidated a number of ERPs on a single platform, or?
You can say we don't always in the same initiative need to balance both.
No.
Because implementing a new ERP, it takes a long time before the business benefits are there. And if I said, well, if you get this new system, you'll make more money tomorrow, that would be faking it.
Yeah.
So I think it's more balancing the portfolio of initiatives we have, where, yes, some of them can be long-term, but a lot of them also be to say, how does this initiative help Dagrofa gain more customers, earn more money tomorrow? So it's kind of balancing the portfolio in a good way, and being able to rebalance it when that's what it business-wise is needed.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about Dagrofa is, in a lot of the other companies I worked in, it's a little bit like, okay, we need to do things 2% better every year in IT. I was like, okay, fine and steady, improve 2% in Dagrofa, because we have been under-investing historically for many years. I think now we're at a stage where we need to do things maybe 20% better every year from IT.
Yeah.
And I think that's super, super interesting, because we can really, I think from IT, we can make a huge difference by delivering better IT system, delivering our services in a better way. I think we've got some good people. I think we've got the funding. We've got backup from our CEO and the board. So I think we just bloody need to get it done and execute it.
Yeah.
And I think that's super interesting, because it's not about moving 2%, it's 20%.
Yeah, now you have you're getting close to having the foundation in place to enable that.
Close might be pushing it a little bit, but there's a lot of work. But we've got the funding to do it, execution.
You have until end of 27, right? Or
we will not be done with, you can say that's... we'll not be done with the foundation in 27, but we will have had a good start and fixed some of the issues. But it's gonna go on.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge in IT is like the new systems you build, which are super new, fancy, shiny. In a few years, they will be legacy.
Yeah.
So I don't think you will never get there. You need to get closer and closer, but once you're done, you start all over again.
Yeah. How would you say that? How would you allocate percentages across plan, build, run in Dagrofa? Now we talked a little bit about that it's more operational and hands-on, and you're doing more cleanup. What's kind of the split?
Fine. If I look at what we kind of, if I should only split it in run and build financially, it would be 50-50.
Okay.
But you can say quite a lot of what we have in build is also replacing old network devices and stuff, which are not like doing
build. No,
it's not like build. It's built to run.
Yeah.
So maybe the real answer is more 75-25 or something like that.
Okay.
If you put it that way, would be my guess.
Yeah.
Which is not too bad.
No. Also with the focus that I guess what you have right now, of course, cleaning up and preparing for the future can fall in both buckets, right?
Yes.
But that makes sense. That makes sense. And I guess you have done a lot of the planning already. So right now it's more execution focused.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also think I don't believe in these for the next 5 years. This is exactly what we will do. I think you need to have an idea about where is it we're going, where do we want to be, and yes, then we do 12 months or 18 months updates and more specific plans.
Yeah,
because
things change.
Everything will change anyway in 5 years. So where we thought we were going would probably be somewhere else. Yeah. But if we don't have an idea about where we want to go, then it's very hard to at least move in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm curious because we talked about that you're a company that operates with quite low margins, and I assume that IT is probably, at least for the support functions, one of the bigger buckets of costs. Yes, and I could imagine that someone sits up top, maybe the CFO and the CEO looks at HR, finance, IT, and IT is just like a huge cost.
Yes.
How are you? First of all, how are you managing your cost and your budgets versus actuals, and how do you keep kind of track of everything? But also, how are you communicating to your stakeholders in the leadership team and in the different departments of Dagrofa and argue for the cost of IT?
You say we manage our cost in a relatively traditional way with OPEX and CAPEX and normal financial cycles, so nothing and monthly follow-up, etc. So nothing fancy or weird there. I think our executive management fully understands that we need to spend money on IT. They also know we need to invest because we've fallen a bit behind, because we have had years where we couldn't afford to invest, so we need to invest to catch up. I know a lot of people say IT CIO should kind of get more money to IT. My own team would sometimes tell me that. I honestly don't see that as my job. I'm part of group management in Dagrofa, and that means it's my job to help optimize the totality of Dagrofa. And if that sometimes means less money to IT and more money to open a new menu store somewhere, that's my job to be part of that decision.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no need for me to be member of executive management, because then you need to be able to think about the totality. Of course, I need to be able to explain my peers what's the impact if we don't decide to fund this and that, and what's the possibilities. I think we are having good ongoing discussions about that. One of the things that surprised me a bit early on in Dagrofa was that people in the group management team told me we don't understand where IT is going. And based on what I've heard, it's like, well, most of the decisions had actually been made, and the group management team had been part of making the decision. But what I realized, we never managed to put all these decisions together and show them at the same time. And that's why we made a kind of, I mentioned earlier, like a target architect, and saying, here's one slide. This is actually the sum of decisions. You've been part of making pretty much all these decisions. But here they are put together, and that means in X number of years, this is how the application landscape will look like. So sometimes it's also about communication, because they had made, before I started, they had made pretty much all the right decisions. We just hadn't really...
No, I'm keeping track of it, right? I guess that's probably the case, right? Because they suddenly forget.
Exactly. And we decided something about a warehouse management, and something about an ERP system, and something about a robot system in the warehouse. Yes, but it actually fits pretty well together, but we need to show you that it fits together.
Yeah.
And we also need to show that, and now we made these decisions, and when we chose Dynamics 365 for this, it also means when you want to do this, this is the system you will use, not another one.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the big pieces that we need to keep stable.
How a lot of people that I've spoken with in your position, some of the issues that they have is actually convincing their C-suite peers that there is an issue, or they need things needs to be addressed, and that you can't just build on top of things that doesn't work.
Yes.
How, I guess it seems like in Dagrofa, the leadership were already kind of matured into that knowledge, or how did you bring in something there to make it more clear what are the challenges, what are the issues, and make it more transparent, or how did you go about that kind of business IT alignment perspective?
I think most of them knew that a lot. Most of my peers are actually positively curious about IT and understand more.
Yeah.
We will always have constructive conflicts about this thing about building on top of some old crap.
Yeah.
Because some of my peers, they need to bring in new customers, because that's in the end what makes Dagrofa make money. And they say, well, Mads, I need to get this customer on board, and that means I need to do an integration. And I need to tell them, well, you're doing that integration is to a shitty old system that will hardly be able to manage it. But we still need to do it, of course, in the end. We need to have a discussion about the risks.
Yeah.
But we cannot come and say, well, IT don't have new systems, so we cannot get new customers in Dagrofa. That's not really going to fly.
No.
So it's more about being pretty open about the risks, and then sometimes we'll also be having some pretty tough discussions about things. Yes, we want to do this business-wise, but there's some underlying stuff that we need to clean up that right now takes priority. Because if we don't clean this up, you will have unstable systems in the foreseeable future, and that's not really good either. And that can sometimes be pretty tough discussions, but that's how it is. It's our job,
yeah.
And I think it's good to have them, because I said if I can have the most stable, I can ensure we have the most stable IT systems in the world in Dagrofa. But then I'm going to triple IT cost, and I'm going to say we're not going to change anything, because that's typically what brings systems down. And then Dagrofa would be a very poor company, and we would be a company with absolutely no development. I would be happy. I would have stable IT systems. But if Dagrofa doesn't make any money, that's not super relevant. So it's always about the balancing all these different interests and trying to do that with the best of our intentions.
Cool. So my final question is probably maybe related a little bit to that. So you've been many places, you've done a lot of things. What's kind of the one thing, I don't know whether we call it like a principle or your life hack to the role as a CIO? What is it that you kind of get back to every time that's kind of fundamental for how you do things?
I think 5 years ago, I think I would have said, get shit done.
Yeah.
Now I think it might be more keep collaborating no matter how hard it gets. Because if you don't collaborate, if you don't do things together with your peers and the teams, it's never going to work anyway. I think when I was younger, I was very convinced I was always right. And maybe I was, but it doesn't help to be right if you don't have an impact. And you have an impact by collaborating with your stakeholders, with your peers, with your team, because that's the way you change anything. So I think for now it's really about saying, no, don't. I could turn this into a fight and I might even win it, but it's not going to help. It's not going to help Dagrofa if I win a fight. We need to solve this together. So I think actually now I'm more at the keep collaborating no matter what the hell happens and no matter how frustrated you are, because that's what really makes the difference.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mads. That was really good.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course.